the workshop for the mayor and aldermen, January 29th, 2015. It's for the February 3rd, 2015 regular meeting. Tuesday, the prayer be with Alderman Jones, and the Pledge of Allegiance be Vice Mayor Green.
We do have someone signed up for the Citizens Forum. So.
Okay, we need to start with the Citizen Forum.
Yes. We have one lectern. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and when you get up here, just state your name and your address, please. David Waldron.
I am David Waldron. I'm a lifetime resident of the city of Laverne, and I currently live at 1175 Waldron Road. I tell everybody I'm the last Waldron on Waldron Road. When you get to the end, you're at my house. So I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. I want to speak in concern of the sprinkler issues in homes. I have a paper I'd like to pass out, if that'd be okay. And there's this is a print of a Popular Mechanics. It's September 2010, and this is not a builder magazine. It is just an article that appeared, and my brother saw it and shared it with me. The last paragraph on this paper says, the fire survival rate in homes with working smoke detectors is 99.41%, according to NFPA. Toss in a sprinkler, and the rate rises to 99.6%. That's a 0.19%. I know the loss of any life is tragic, but this is an awful expensive way to raise life saving by 0.19%. And I think there may be other ways that would be more cost effective, and we could possibly even save more lives. But I do feel like that is a very high cost to raise it. If it's more, a larger percentage, it would make more sense. I thank the alderman for hearing me tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Nobody signed up to speak. We'll end this forum. We'll go right into the meeting, the workshop for, like I spoke earlier, on the regular meeting for Tuesday night. Like I say, the prayer will be Alderman Jones. The Pledge of Allegiance was Vice Mayor Green. And everybody look over the minutes, review the minutes, and make sure everything's on the up and up. And then department reports. And then we got a presentation tonight, right? Only tonight.
Yes, sir.
Not for the workshop?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So if the yearly Harlot Association want to get up and do the presentation.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Greg Howell with Erie Howell & Associates. I'm here to present your June 30th, 2014 audit report. Your audit report did receive an unqualified opinion. This is the highest level of opinion that you can receive. It means your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As you're aware, your prior year reports have received the Government Finance Officer's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This means your report meets the highest reporting standards and goes far beyond the minimum requirements in providing financial information to your citizens. You should be proud of providing that information to them. We believe this current year report continues to meet those high standards. I have prepared some graphs which summarizes some of the financial highlights and trends for the audited period. So at this time we'll go over those. I believe the first one is on the screen. This graph breaks down the revenues by your sources. About 67.8% of your revenues come from local taxes, about almost 20% from intergovernmental, which would be state and federal government, 2% fines and penalties, 6.7% license and permits, and other two areas are a very small part of your revenues. The next graph shows your expenditures. You spend about 63% of your expenditures on your day-to-day operating expenses. You spend about 7.4% on debt service and about 29% on capital outlay. 2014 was a very big capital outlay year for you. You normally don't spend 29% of your money on capital outlay. I think you spent about $7.7 million on capital outlay in 2014. Most of it went for fire department related assets, which you were setting up your fire department. I think it was about $2.7 million in fire department capital items, a little over $2 million police, a little over $2 million roads, and the rest of them were just general assets. The next graph takes your day-to-day operating expenses and breaks those down by your departments. About 57% goes to public safety, which is your fire and police, about 15% to streets and stormwater, 3% to health and wellness, 5.7% recreation, 3.5% library, and 15% general government. That's pretty standard for most governments in Tennessee. The next graph takes your salaries and wages. About 63% of your salary and wages go to public safety, 10% streets and stormwater, 15% general government, 4.7 library, and 4.8 recreation. Now this will change a little bit for you in the current year. I think only about half the year you had your fire department salaries for 2014, so your percentage will probably go up a little bit for 2015 when you get a full year's worth of fire department salaries. The next graph shows the trends. Local taxes, red line being the 2014 year. Your local taxes were up. That's primarily attributable to your sales tax being up. I was talking to Phyllis earlier tonight. She said your trend for sales tax continues to be up, which is a very good sign, shows the economy is getting better, and hopefully that other things such as permits and things like that will follow along and add to your revenue sources. Your intergovernmental revenues were down some. That's primarily because you received less grants in 2014 than you did in 2013. Fines and penalties were down just a little bit. Police fines were down just a little bit, and your other revenues were about the same. Recreation was up just a touch, and that was attributable to, I think you started some programs where you charged some fees for some recreation activities that you hadn't charged in the past. Next graph shows your day-to-day operating expenses. Shows your current expenditures being up, debt service being about the same, and you see where your capital outlay had the big spike where we spent all the money for the fire and police assets. The next graph shows your departments and how they trended in expenditures. Your general government, you're able to hold your general government expenditures pretty much in line with no increase at all. The only increases was a little bit in streets and stormwater and some in public safety, which primarily attributable to your fire department and getting that department up and running. That's where your big increase in expenses were, and that probably will level out this year once you get that department up and running and smoothed out a little bit. The next graph shows your salary and wages. Shows a good job in controls where you've held your controls in your salaries in areas. The only area it's up in public safety, and that, as I said, you started the fire department, so you had some salaries in 2014 you didn't have in 2013. Your medical insurance fund, that's the fund that provides the medical coverage for your employees. Your income to that fund did exceed expenditures by a little over $200,000. You've got about almost a $500,000 surplus in that fund, which is a good, comfortable place to be. But as you know, depending on your experience, you can take a big hit in that fund any time. But you have got a good, safe fund balance or a good cushion in that fund to be able to absorb most type of situations that might come along. Next graph is your water and sewer revenues. You did show a profit in your water sewer fund. You're able to fund all your debt service and put back some money for some expenditures for capital outlay and improvements that I know that are in the plans for the next 5 years. So you're able to put back some money to fund those improvements to your system. The state is really looking at water and sewer systems across the state of Tennessee and really looking at their budgets more carefully than they have. I know you've got some water loss situations where you've got a pretty high water loss, and I think that's one thing. I know y'all have got some programs in place trying to decrease that by putting in new meters and looking at leak situations, and hopefully that'll help your operations as well. The next graph is your debt service requirements. The red line being your general fund debt service, which shows you'll have your general fund debt service paid off in 2025. Of course, I know that's changed now because y'all are issuing some debt in the current year. But at June 3rd, 2013, you had debt service for general fund through 2025, for your water and sewer through 2028. It's running right just shy of $2 million a year for the general fund and debt service fund, general fund and water and sewer fund the next couple of years to pay for debt service. Next graph just shows the city and county tax rates and how they've trended the last 10 years. Same rate the last 3 years, pretty much mirrors how the counties had the same rate the last 3 years. The next graph is your fund balance. You have about a $6.9 million unrestricted fund balance in the year. That equates to about 5 months of operating expenses. A good safe fund balance is considered to be 4 to 6 months, so you're right in the safe range on that fund balance. I know this year you have budgeted to spend some of that fund balance, which could decrease it, but maybe with the increase in sales tax and some of the other permits and things that seem to be trending up this year, you won't have to dig into that fund balance quite as much as you've originally budgeted. That completes my report. You did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in your accounting system. I did have about 2 or 3 management comments that I've made to your staff to help improve your accounting controls and procedures, and I know they've already implemented some changes in those areas to address those suggestions I had. I'll be glad to address any questions or comments at this time.
Anybody have any questions?
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. If I can ever answer a question or be of assistance, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
B, we got a proclamation of Gerald Scott Day. We'll talk about it Tuesday, and then we'll go on into old business, second reading, ordinance 2015-01, an ordinance to amend the Title 20, Chapter 2, Section 20-08 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding park and recreation user fees. This is just for leagues, not for citizens.
Just tournaments.
Tournaments.
Just tournaments, yeah, it doesn't affect our rec ball league at all.
We talked about it last month in the first reading. Anybody have any questions about it?
Just to remind y'all, it's just to anybody that books 2 or more tournaments with us get to retain gate fees. It's kind of like an incentive for, loyal customers, I guess.
Anybody have any questions? Moving on to the consent agenda. A1, it's the bid on baseball, softball league concession.
We did a bid for the baseball, softball concessions for the drinks and the snack supplies. We're going to ask that it be awarded to Pepsi. Now, this is not exclusive like Coke was when we had the contracts in the past with Coke. This is just where we purchase the stuff from them, and the vending machines should stay as they are in the buildings. Whereas when we had a Coke contract, we were exclusive and nothing but Coke could be sold in any of the buildings. This is not the case. This is just a bid for the concessions at the ballparks. And then they asked that Sam's be awarded the contract for the snacks and supplies. I just wanted to make sure it was clear that this is not going to be an exclusive contract of any kind.
So if we've got a Coke machine sitting outside, that'd be safe.
It's fine.
Anybody have any questions on A1? Moving on to A2, state contract, annual software, Microsoft software license renewal. This is something we have to do. We do it every year.
Yes, I'm just bringing it before the board. It's every year we pay Microsoft our licensing fee, and just bring it to you for your approval this year. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions on A2?
Thank you.
Moving on to B, approve change order number 2 for the East Hurricane Creek Drainage Basin Sewer. I guess that's CTI.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Good evening. A couple of months ago, I was here with you, and you all discussed and approved change order 1 for the East Hurricane Creek Sewer Rehab Project, which added some work into that job. And then as Boatman Construction has progressed through the work, they have now requested a 45-day extension to their contract because of bad weather that happened in December, and also some delays in getting the appropriate equipment to perform the work that was added in change order 1. So they've asked for 45 additional days. We've developed a change order 2 that adds 45 days to their contract, and we recommend that you approve it. Be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Anybody have any questions on B?
Thank you very much.
Moving on to C, approve a revised interagency contract with Rutherford County, City of Murfreesboro, Town of Smyrna, and the City of Laverne for the Project Water Education and Teaching Program, Project WET.
Mayor and Board, this is, we've got a current contract, but it's a interagency contract that we're gonna have to revise, because basically the way it's set up right now, the interagency contract with all the cities that's mentioned here in the county, we have a contract with the Discovery Center, and I think you should have this in your packets, and the Discovery Center has been implementing this program and had the facilitator work for the Discovery Center. Discovery Center's had some changes in staff and things, and they can't fulfill the requirements that they've got in their contract with the county, so we're going to have to dissolve that agreement, and in doing so, Rutherford County is going to hire a part-time employee to implement this program, and then we're going to continue to have an interagency contract. That way we're sharing the benefit of not all of us having to hire somebody to do the same job, since it's a county and dealing with the school system and teacher stuff like that. So it's basically just replacing that contract, and I think Evan's reviewed, since I don't know if he's had a chance to review it or not on this, but it's a pretty short contract. It's almost exactly the same as the other one. It just kind of removes the Discovery Center from it.
Any questions? Evan, have you reviewed it?
No, sir, I haven't, but I will before
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yes, sir.
If anybody's got any questions, they can call you between
Yes,
now
sir.
and Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Moving on to D, approve sponsorship agreement with Dick's Sporting Good, AC.
It's a sponsorship that they're wanting to help our ball league out. They're sponsoring us for $2,785, and it's just basically permission to go ahead and accept that from them, in various forms, with either gift cards or equipment that totals $2,785.
Any questions on D? Moving on to E, approve engineering services agreement with Weiser Consultant for the Murfreesboro Road near Shriman intersection improvement project. Take it this is down by KFC.
This is same one that you had a proposal, I believe it's December meeting, right, Bruce?
Yes.
You approved the proposal then, same exact proposal. Basically, they just, when we discussed them getting started, they got to looking and their legal wanted them to have an actual contract document that they that they see. So we basically bring in the same proposal back attached to a contract that they've used on some other projects that we've got. I think Evan's got this contract also. I don't know if he's had a chance to review over this one yet or not, but it's only just like I say, this is a contract to go with that proposal.
Any questions? Moving on to number 6, new business, motion to appoint or remove board members. Board of Zoning Appeals, 1 term vacant, 1 term expires, January 31st, 15. Mine are working. Okay, here you go. Okay, we got a vacancy for Robert Kruger. He was moved up to the Planning Commission, so his term's up. I mean, it's vacant, so we got, three appointees, applicants.
We have 2 new applications, one from Cena Mosley and one from Kenneth Perkins. And then the term for Doug Stanfield also expires at the end of January. And as far as I know, he would like to stay on the Board of Zoning Appeals as well. So,
Do we need to advertise the Doug Stanfield deal?
well, we've been advertising the Board of Zoning Appeals on Channel 3 for over a month now. So, I mean, I think it's fine if you want to reappoint. I think Kathy has a call in to Doug Stanfield, hoping to hear from him, but she'll find out by Tuesday for sure that he wants to stay on there. And then, of course, the new position, you'll choose between Cena Mosley and Kenneth Perkins.
Okay, everybody looking, going on to B. Construction Board and Adjustment and Appeals, 2 terms expires January 31st, 15. Teresa Hess and John Rutledge.
Yes, sir. And they'd both like to stay on the committee or the board.
Moving on to C, Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, 1 term vacant.
Yes, sir. The term for Vera Lakey is vacant. We've been advertising this on Channel 3, and we have received 2 applications, one from Gloria Victory and one from Dan Garrett.
Moving on to D, Vergne Housing Authority, 1 term vacant.
Yes, sir. This is the term that was previously held by Amisha Saluki. We've been advertising this on Channel 3. We've received 1 application from Brenda Bryant.
Moving on to E, Library Board, 1 vacancy.
Yes, sir. This is the term that was formerly held by Antonio Cannon. He requested to be removed last month. We have been advertising this on Channel 3. We've received 2 applications, one from Kristen Costanzo and one from Dan Garrett.
And Kristen Constanza, she works for this.
She's our city planner.
City
yes.
planner. Moving on to F, that's Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, 1 term vacant.
Yes, sir, this is the vacancy from Reverend Ezel Garner. He requested to be removed last month. We have been advertising this on Channel 3. We've received 2 applications, one from Marshall Anthony and one from Dan Garrett.
Moving on to G, Stormwater Appeals and Advisory Board, 1 term vacant.
Yes, sir, this is the vacancy from Deborah Edwards where she requested to be removed. We have been advertising this on Channel 3 as well, and we received 1 application from Dan Garrett.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to number 7, that's first reading, ordinance 2015-02, an ordinance to amend Title 2, Chapter 6, Section 2-601 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the members of the Local Emergency Planning Commission.
If you'll remember last month, we were appointing members to the LEPC, and one of them was from the Airport Authority, and they didn't really have anybody else that could be appointed. The former member had basically requested to be removed because he didn't have the time. So what we decided to do was to remove that position from this committee, and that's what this ordinance does. It removes the Airport Authority position from this committee.
Any questions? On number 7, on the ordinance. Moving on to number 8, this is discussion, motion to approve a study for comprehensive facility adjustment and master plan. I think it's from yours, Bruce.
Yes, sir. We've been talking about this for a long time, and as far as our space needs in our city buildings and city departments, this study is essentially just a planning tool to prepare us for the future. The cost is $50,000. We have a total of $75,000 in the budget available this year. And like I said, this is just a planning tool where we can plan for the future growth that we know is going to come. Obviously, the economy is coming back, and we know to provide the same services that we currently provide, we're going to have more space, more employees down the road. So this is just kind of trying to get ahead of the curve and know what we're going to have to build in the future. You know, we're looking at City Hall, we're looking at police, we're looking at fire departments. Those are some of our major needs right now, and you know, we can't really plan for those until we know how much space we're going to need in the future. And this is planning for 10 to 20 years down the road.
Anybody have any questions?
Bruce, you didn't get to come to the retreat. You were sick, so I hope you're feeling better. But my question to you is, we've talked about this for about 5 years, and certainly we don't have an exact answer, but ballpark, I mean, we're busting at the seams in all of our buildings. What is your thoughts as far as how far down the road? I heard 10, 20 years just now, but I mean, in some cases, I don't think some of our departments can make it that long.
Right, no, this is just planning for 10 to 20 years out and what kind of space we'll need. As far as when we actually are ready to build some more buildings or do some additions or whatever that may be, I mean, it could be in the 3 to 5 year range when we're ready for that. We've got to look at, you know, how much space we need before we can come up with the engineering and designs for everything, and we've got to find a way to pay for it, whether that's bonding or whatever the case may be. In the presentation earlier, if you'll notice, so a lot of our general fund bonds end like in 2022, which is 7 years from now. So it could be possible in 3 to 5 years we could structure a bond issue to where it would coincide with those other bonds dropping off. So we have a lot of issues to look at, obviously, over the next few years. But, you know, it's hard to say exactly when we'll look to start building, but my best guess would say we need it within 3 to 5 years.
Anyone else? I know this building here, it was built in the early 80s, and it's served us well, but it's...
Right, this building was 1983. I believe the police department was 1989 or 90. And we're both just busting at the seams right now. So we're hurting in a lot of areas.
Something we definitely need to look at.
So if the board's okay with it, I'll put this on the agenda for Tuesday night for approval, unless there's any opposition to that.
Now, we're gonna vote to spend the $50,000
For the study.
for the study now.
Right.
Everybody aware of that now?
That'll be on the agenda for Tuesday night.
Okay. Any more questions? Moving on, number 9, discuss automatic fire sprinkler system ordinance. Tom, I think you got
Well, I asked Bruce if he would, I think you, I, and Sherry got to see a video that was presented. I think it's Orange County, California. And I just thought, to me, this is what really, someone who's not in the emergency services field, it really opened my eyes to, again, how much property loss there can be, how quickly the temperature can rise, so on. I just think it's like an 8-minute video, so see what y'all's thoughts are.
Orange County Fire Authority had a unique opportunity to show the effectiveness of residential sprinklers at a Tustin Air Station. We took 2 buildings that were fire loaded the same, which means the combustible material inside the buildings were as close to identical as possible. The only difference between the two was one was equipped with fire sprinklers while the other was not.
This room is furnished to represent a typical bedroom. There are pictures on the wall, drapes covering the windows, a bed with pillows and blankets, as well as other items. The fire is started in a trash can. As the fire grows, it starts to make a run up the drapes. It takes just 60 seconds to activate the smoke alarm down the hall. As the temperature rises and the toxic smoke becomes dense, your chance of survival decreases by the second. The temperature in the room has risen so fast that your next breath would sear the lining of your lungs if the toxic smoke hasn't already taken your life. Listen closely. You can hear the hallway smoke alarm melting as the fire, radiant heat, and smoke spread throughout the rest of the structure. This time, smoke and flames attract neighbors' attention.
Fire emergency. I'm walking by residents at 6830 Super Stallion, and there's fire and smoke actually coming out of an upstairs window.
Once the 911 call has been received, it will take approximately 6 minutes until the first unit arrives on scene.
Orange County Fire Engine 222. We have a six-plex, 2-story residence, well involved unit on the second floor. Start second alarm.
Region 222, copy your request for a second alarm, 6-plex well involved.
It is now 13 and a half minutes into the burn, and the entire room is engulfed in flames. As firefighters enter the structure, they must first extinguish fire that has spread throughout the building, and then make their way towards the point of origin. In this room, the smoke alarm was placed in the bedroom and activates 10 seconds after ignition. In the previous burn, the smoke alarm was located in the hallway and took approximately a minute to activate. We see the same fire behavior displayed as before as it rises from the trash can and continues to grow and become hotter. As it grows and consumes the combustibles on the wall, the fire begins to roll across the ceiling. The sprinkler then activates, cooling down the room, and within minutes puts out the fire. Keep in mind, in the previous burn, the fire department didn't even arrive until 6 minutes after the 911 call.
Common sense would tell you that sprinklers are a good thing, but I had no idea of how dramatic sprinklers can be in actually putting out fires without the presence of firefighters.
On the non-sprinklered side, there was total devastation. The only thing that remained was the frame of the bed and wire hangers in the closet where the clothes once hung.
The fire gutted the entire room. When you looked at the damage throughout the rest of the structure, What I thought was interesting was there was still a substantial amount of damage, but there was no what we call fire loading in the rest of the building, which would mean furniture and other combustibles. So it completely destroyed that entire room.
In fire prevention, what really surprised us was the temperature. And not the temperature at the ceiling, which we expected to rise quickly, but how quickly the temperature rose at the lower levels. Within 2 minutes, it was over 200 degrees, which made it an untenable space. On the sprinkler side, it was a completely different story. As the fire moved up the walls and started lapping at the ceiling, the sprinkler activated and extinguished the fire within a very short period of time.
You had a little bit of scorching on the wall, some damage to the container where the origin of the fire was in the trash can, and a little bit of water, and that was pretty much it.
There's no question that fire sprinklers save lives. There's no question that they work. The reason why you don't hear about it is that it is a non-news event, in that nobody dies, seldom is there an injury, and there's very little property damage. We'll respond units. By the time we get there, we cancel the rest of the units as a small mop-up operation, and that's all that's done.
I understand that developers, people who build homes and apartments in commercial buildings, have a lot of heartburn over sprinklers because they do add cost, they add expense to construction. But I would suggest to you that any developer, any builder who actually sees a demonstration, a real-life demonstration of what sprinklers do will change their mind rather quickly.
What really convinced me was how quickly the sprinklers attacked the fire, how quickly the temperatures dropped, and it would have given, I think, any occupant a reasonable opportunity to get out.
This is one of those add-ons that is just a kind of a no-brainer, it seems to me. Yeah, you're going to pay another, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 in the price of your home for sprinklers, but look what you get for it. I mean, people are paying far more than that kind of money for some ridiculous cosmetic improvements in their homes, and they pay it willingly.
People see fire sprinklers portrayed differently in the Hollywood through movies. For example, you might see the prankster that takes a match and lights off a sprinkler head, and then the whole building, all the sprinklers start spraying water, and that just doesn't happen. It's just the one sprinkler head over the fire, and as the fire grows, there may be a few other sprinkler heads that activate, but you don't have the deluge throughout the entire structure like they portray in the movies.
Residential fires are not only dangerous to civilians, but to firefighters as well.
When you see what it is that firefighters have to do and the risks they have to place themselves to fight a fire that otherwise would have been out before they even arrived, I mean, it's just, it's frightening. It's so dangerous. And this eliminates the danger, eliminates it.
The advantage to having a residential sprinkler system installed is that's basically like having a full-time firefighter 24/7 on duty right there in every single room of your house, ready to activate at any given moment, and they will have that fire extinguished before the fire department even arrives.
I think if city councils had an opportunity to see the demonstration that I saw, and if OCFA could present information on the actual cost, that I believe that the majority of councils would be convinced that their residents would be protected by residential fire sprinklers at a minimal cost.
A month after this demonstration, Orange County experienced two similar residential fires, both starting in the kitchen. During the first fire, a young female teenager was taking an afternoon nap while the fire advanced through the house and took her life. 2 weeks later, a 6-month-old baby girl was left unattended in a high chair when a fire ignited. As the fire grew, fire sprinklers activated, sparing the child's life.
Here we live in one of the most technologically advanced nations in the world, and yet we're allowing people to die in residence because of no sprinklers. I mean, every fire that I've gone to where there's been a fatality, had there been fire sprinklers there, not only would the damage been minimized, but a person would be alive to tell about that.
Any developer, any builder who actually sees a demonstration, a real-life demonstration of what sprinklers do will change their mind rather quickly. You cannot put a price on life.
back to the discussion. Anybody want to discuss it?
I mean, I'll give you my feelings, and they haven't changed in about 4 months. Quite honestly, I think if you look at the state of Tennessee, I think they asked the University of Tennessee to do a study, and you can pick different pieces and parts out of that. Basically, I think Tennessee's ranked 3rd in fires and fire deaths. We've talked quite a bit about our ISO rating. I think this is another thing that will help continue. But the bigger thing is we're setting standards for our builders, for our developers, in my opinion, that we are prioritizing lives, not just the lives of the residents, but the lives of our firefighters. And those standards, you know, in my opinion, speak for themselves in what we're trying to do. There's no disrespect to anyone that's a developer or a builder. I just feel that again, we want the best for our residents. And we want to save property, we want to save lives, and it also will minimize resources and man hours with our fire department. So that's my thoughts, and I don't see a reason to change it unless someone else can come up with something that's...
Well, I watched the film, you know, and it is disturbing, but we could put the same film up there about a tornado, a house blown away, people killed, but we don't have an ordinance to require the homes to have a storm shelter. Personally, to me, if I had the choice between a sprinkler system or a storm shelter, I'd rather have the storm shelter. And another thing, you know, my concern is nobody else in the county's got it. You know, I feel Laverne needs to be on a level playing field with Smyrna and Murfreesboro, and you know, even if we take the ordinance out, that's not going to stop nobody from putting it in. You know, anybody that wants a storm shelter or a fire sprinkler, if they're building a house, they can put it in. We're not stopping them. We're just demanding the house to build, and we ain't forcing people to overlook Laverne and go to Smyrna. They said the sprinkler's $1,000, $1,500. It's more like $4,000. It goes by square foot. On the houses that built out at McFarland Point, it could be as much as $5,000 to $7,000.
According to that study, if you don't mind me interrupting, just saying this, according to the study from the state of Tennessee, in our particular area, it's $1.10 per square foot. And square footage isn't actually square footage, there's sprinkled square footage. So $1.10, so people know their individual square footage of their homes, and it may be just a little bit more. But here's my question. Randolph, I'll ask you, since July 1 when the ordinance came into effect, we haven't stopped building. It hasn't detoured builders that I know of. You came at our retreat and talked about how it's ticked up and so on. So that's where I say to you, you know, I get the part where you don't want to mandate things, but when city tax dollars and our firefighters' lives are on the line, I do think it's something that we look at. And also you said no one else in the county has done it. You know, I was kind of proud of the fact that we were the first, and we took a leading role in that. And I'm also, if I'm not mistaken, when the new codes come up, I think this year, is it the new residential code will come up this year for a vote, 2015? I believe that it may be in that, they may require that at that point in time. So am I correct in what I'm saying? Or?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, the actual residential code, I think of 2009, will come back up again this year.
Well, we're currently under the 2012, and we're good on the 2012 for 7 years. Whatever the whatever's within 7 years of the most available code. 2015 code's going to come out. Well, it's available now. We just have to stay 7 years current to whatever the most available code is, and currently we're.
So when they come up this year, and they do vote on
code hearings.
Yes. Then.
Yeah, the ICC has code hearings all year long, each and every year. And as far as I know, that's not a requirement that's being looked at to be removed at all.
It's actually looked to being added in, and I can bring some documentation to show that they are looking at that and have, so, across the board. So Anyway, I'm not here to debate or argue. I'm just here to say that, to me, I think it saves money, it saves lives, residential. Are we also looking to take this into the commercial buildings as well? And
I like to see it changed, and we just adopt what the rest of the county's got. Like now on the commercial, on some of them, we require 5,000. Just leave it standard, like the rest of the county. Leave it on a level playing field. You talk about the building permits is up. I don't think we've had many this year. I mean, the last 6 months, when the builders knew that they was going to implement a fire sprinkler, we had a surge of pulling permits. But I don't know of anybody that's broke ground on a new subdivision in the last 6 months.
Well, I mean, as far as breaking ground on subdivision, the Ridge, of course, is being proposed to come to Laverne now as it is. Residential permits were not, I mean, they were affected somewhat right after, but of course you have to keep in mind too that when into June rolled around, I mean, everybody that was wanting to build a home in Laverne in the next year was getting a permit into us, or the next 6 months anyway, they're wanting to get that permit into us. We have issued residential permits since July 1, mostly in McFarland Point, mostly in maybe Woods of Martin's Bend. There's been maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 residential permits that have been issued since July that are currently under that sprinkler ordinance. I mean, it hasn't completely killed it, and I don't know, if it had much of an impact other than right there at the end of June when everybody wanted to get that rush and get those permits issued.
My feelings on it, is just, if we're gonna move forward with development, commercial and residential, if it's just like, we need to be able to level playing field. When these companies come in and look for buildings and build subdivisions, we need to be on the same as the county. We got a good fire department, 3-minute response time. It's just like David said, it's other ways we can look at doing it other than water sprinklers. And you take Laverne water, got all that water, the deal that happened in Nolensville, freeze and bust. I don't know if your insurance covers it, have to have flood insurance, you don't know. It's a lot of ins, ands, and buts. And the way it's set up now, Laverne may be the guinea pig for the county. Who knows, 2 years from now, these houses that's already got in there might have major problems, I think it's good that we got these in there. We'll see how it goes, and then if it does adopt for the fire code, people will know what they're getting into.
And it's hard to gauge whether or not, with removal of that ordinance or keeping it in how it's going to affect building permits. I know that, there's a lot of builders and contractors in this room that have an interest in what will take place there, but they may be sitting here waiting with bated breath for that moment when they can pull permits where they don't have to sprinkle. I don't know. I know that 1 or 2 builders that we've dealt with faithfully throughout my term here as building official for the city of Laverne, they didn't necessarily slow down with their permits, but they got a big wad of permits done before the end of June. So therefore, it would be months before they would consider pulling any other permits. And they have, there's been 1 or 2 builders that have, they know the fact that it's got to be sprinkled, and they've been in a position.
I've talked to a few people that's not contractors, it's individual persons. Yeah. That's got lots, big lots, and want to subdivide for the kids. They've called me and they say, hey, what's going on? We can't, that's the breaking point of letting my son build a house beside me.
I had an email yesterday from an individual. They're not a builder, they're not a developer. They bought a lot here in Laverne and were anticipating building a house on it and realized it's got to be sprinkled. And they're just, they're not in touch with what's going on as far as the sprinkler ordinance, and they were surprised to learn that they were faced with the dilemma of either building, not building, and if they did build, it's going to have to be sprinkled.
And if they qualified for X amount of dollars, if that sprinkler's going to cost $4,000 to $5,000 more, that puts them out of the ball game. They're forced to got to move in an apartment, a condo, or move outside the city.
It was part of that discussion yesterday, was that in the qualifying for that loan, were they gonna be able to afford the sprinkler system or not?
It's obvious that we don't necessarily agree right now, but you're talking about the money, homeowners, national average, according to the study that I'm citing, is 15 to 20% savings. So you all know what you pay in your property insurance, and take 15 to 20% off that. You also look at it amortized over a 30-year mortgage, and that savings pays for it. So we're certainly saying to people, if this is something that that yes, it's a cost, or we've mandated that with us changing this ordinance, but it's something that they will recoup through the course of their actual life of their mortgage. So, and maybe beyond, maybe make more. So
I guess
I said my point. So
I guess you're right. We're going to agree to disagree on
Okay.
that. Any more discussion on it? Ain't no more discussion of.
I need to point out that if you do want to change this ordinance, it has to be adopted the same way this one was adopted, by having 2 special meetings, and they have to be at least 2 weeks apart. So scheduling, if you guys give me the go-ahead to do that, I mean, we'll have to work out the scheduling to where it meets those state requirements. So that's the only
I'd like
comment
to
on that.
schedule it. Any further questions? We're down to Mayor and Alderman's comments. Tom?
I'm going to defer mine over to AC. I had asked Bruce to put something on the agenda, but because of all the illnesses, we didn't get on there. But we brought something up in front of the board about 4 months ago, I believe it was, with our farmers market we're trying to bring into Laverne. And with it being a new board, we thought it'd be best to bring it up and make sure we still have the board's blessing to go on. And we'd like to get it up and running by May. So, AC, if you want to kind of...
Well, we're just trying to decide what's the best route to go, where to put it. I mean, discussion of the Civic Auditorium parking lot has been brought up because there's so much traffic on Old National Highway. And I know if there was something there, I'd be buying produce and stuff there, and a lot of citizens would. And it's very convenient if it's there. And we don't have to start with anything huge, 5 or 6 vendors. But, if we can bring in 3 or 4, something like that, depending on availability, because a lot of them are already committed elsewhere. But if we could bring it in and kind of try it on a trial basis, maybe see how it goes for the first spring or whatever. I guess all we're wanting is to know that y'all are okay with it and that, we can move forward looking for those vendors.
Probably 3 things that we have to look at. We have to look at location, which we were talking about, the Civic Auditorium, just because of the amount of room that they have there and the parking. We'd have to look at if there's going to be any fees, and then, of course, if there's anything legal that we need to put in place before then. But actually, AC, you said 4 or 5. I don't know if you heard the comment that was made at Parks and Rec Advisory, but it seems like there's 35 actual vendors that are expressing interest right now. But they're just wanting to find out, when. I may have popped over there, so I apologize.
That's all right. I don't remember hearing that. That's good, though.
But at any rate, yeah, it looks like there could be there's a lot of people interested. So
good.
Anyway,
one concern I have on it is just like the farmers market in Nashville. Started off being a good thing for the farmers. Now the farmers can't even get in there. It's the scalpers. How we're going to keep being turned into a commercial venue. The one in Murfreesboro, they got one in Franklin, but the one in Nashville, the farmers market, was set aside for the farmers, and now the farmers can't even get in because you got the commercial vendors in there. I don't know if y'all thought ahead.
We've actually discussed that. We're going to try to limit it to certain produce farmers, not some guy selling tube socks or whatever the case may be.
I'm talking about somebody going to South Georgia, bringing a load of watermelon in, or a cantaloupe, or a season of vegetables. Or y'all focus on just local people growing?
That's what we have looked into. However, we have had people as far away as East and West Tennessee that have actually expressed interest right now. So we'd love to do it. We'd love to keep it local and support people here. But we totally agree that was brought up, that we want to keep it where it's produce, and maybe eventually move into something where if they want to bring maybe meats and so on. But again, to start it off small and give our residents the same ability that Smyrna and Murfreesboro and, like you said, Nashville can stay in their hometown and get fresh produce.
I'm not aware of Smyrna. I don't know if Smyrna's got one or not.
They
I know
do.
Murfreesboro and
They do.
Smyrna's got it.
Every other Saturday on Front Street, right? Right. So.
Okay.
They have something at the corner at Jefferson Pike and Sam Ridley too. I don't know what days it is though, but I've seen them out there.
But that's all my comments tonight. Appreciate it.
All right. Calvin?
I've got a question on that. Would they be standalones, or do they need, you're saying the Civic Auditorium, can that be sponsored on city property?
That's what I was saying as far as legal, whether we have to change any sort of ordinances or whatever. And again, that was something we brought up about 4 months ago. And
I don't know the answer.
if you wouldn't mind, if
Sure.
we could maybe the next by Tuesday or
Sure.
Thank you.
We
Appreciate
have
it.
to be careful too, because just because they're coming in and selling produce doesn't mean, like you said, somebody might want to come in and try to sell tube socks. How come they get to sell produce and I can't sell my tube socks?
I think Laverne run into that problem a few years
that's
back.
why we want to make sure
Oh,
that
somebody
you
tell
can
it.
find something out about that.
I'll be sure to look up tube socks.
Do that.
You can't do
Put that in
it.
the ordinance.
You can't do a defined contract? I mean, we do the same thing downtown on property down there, and it's specifically a farmer's market. You have to sell produce. They don't allow you to sell. Now, after they've established, and that farmer who brings in the produce can put his tube socks beside his cucumbers and he can sell them. But he can't just bring and start with.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably two ways that we can do it, and probably the easiest way to deal with it would probably be to have standard contracts between the city and these individual vendors where we put in the contract what they're allowed to do and not do. And then if they come in and violate the contract by selling tube socks, then, we'll call Tom and the contract will be canceled. And that's.
I'm sorry I brought that up.
Another thing we checked with Smyrna, if they do it up at the train depot, I'm sure they got some kind of contract.
Yes, sir.
Melissa?
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
You got anything else, Tom?
No, sir.
What about Ms. Sherry?
I don't have any produce to sell.
Well, here I want to be on record. I have nothing against tube stops. We got a strong cold front coming in, so watch your pets. You know any elderly people, check on them. United Way has got a baby shower. We're urging people to bring in newborn baby items and put in the box out there. Things they need the worst is diapers, newborn diapers, wipes, and this is a new one for me. I didn't know what onesies was, but I found out what onesies was. Then blankets and bottles. New stuff, don't bring no used bottles. And then the Daddy and Daughter Dance, it's February the 7th. It's on a Saturday evening from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Roy Waldron Gymnasium. I think the entry fee is $10 a couple. Urge everybody to come out to that. And let everybody know that we changed the city court from the building back here. It used to be the old boxing building that's multi-purpose, and court is held here. It's on Wednesday here at City Hall. So I think, Garland, I think you changed the signs, haven't you? And let's see, Park and Ride. The bus, the RTA bus that runs through here all the time from Nashville to Murfreesboro, they got a new location. They're going to start picking up at the City Park, the Veterans Memorial Park, starting Monday, February the 2nd. So they was picking up the Kroger's. So the ones who's ride the bus, remember, don't go to Kroger's. After Monday, go to the park and.
We hung the signs up yesterday, so when you pull into the front of Veterans Memorial.
I'm sure there'll be some still come to the Kroger's. And I want to keep everybody to keep the Treadway family in their prayers. They had a loss, and keep the Treadway family in the prayers. And I believe, if I ain't mistaken, that's all I've got wrote down. Just see everybody back here Tuesday. Workshop closed.